US President Donald Trump has cut short his visit to the G7 summit in Canada as the situation in the Middle East deteriorates. Tonight, the US President has flown back to Washington and has denied speculation his administration is working on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. The move came shortly after Donald Trump warned citizens to leave the Iranian capital as the deepening conflict entered its fifth day. We'll hear from our correspondent in Israel shortly, but first here's the ABC's Americas editor John Lyons.
A dramatic backdrop for a dramatic departure.
I have to be back as soon as I can.
The Iran-Israel conflict was top of the agenda as world leaders gathered in Canada's Rocky Mountains. But the traditional G7 family photo turned into more of a press conference after Donald Trump announced he was cutting his trip short because of the crisis.
Nice. I wish I could stay for tomorrow, but they understand.
Is there a reason, Mr. President, that you can't do your business from here?
You have questions for anybody else?
Is there a reason that you can't do your business from here?
For 5 days, Israel and Iran have exchanged fire. Iranians are now fleeing major centres en masse, encouraged by Mr. Trump, who posted on his Truth Social website, "Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran." As promised, after dinner the president took off from the mountain resort. His French counterpart telling media Donald Trump was working on a peace plan.
If the United States of America can secure a ceasefire, that's a very good thing.
After he swapped Marine One for Air Force One, Donald Trump posted from the air, pouring cold water over the French president's claims. He has no idea why I'm now on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire. Much bigger than that. But adding to the confusion over Donald Trump's intentions, the US Defence Secretary says a deal is still on the table.
We are postured defensively in the region to be strong in pursuit of a peace deal. And we certainly hope that's what happens here.
Donald Trump has flown through the night to get back here to the White House. Why exactly there was such urgency remains unclear. The website Axios is reporting that the administration is discussing the possibility of a meeting later this week between the US envoy Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. On the face of it, that doesn't sound like the basis for a major breakthrough. A meeting between the two men was already in the works for last weekend, before Israel launched its first strikes on Iran. Those talks were cancelled as the tit-for-tat conflict escalated. The calculation here now seems to be that a weakened Iran may be ready to do a deal on curbing its uranium enrichment, and Donald Trump may be prepared to raise the spectre of deploying US bunker-busting bombs to destroy Iran's underground nuclear facilities. His post from Air Force One suggests he'd like to keep Iran guessing on his tactics. No surprises there from the man who sees himself as the master dealmaker. What is clear is that the US president, who came back to power on an isolationist America First ticket, now finds himself increasingly drawn into yet another foreign war. John Lyons, ABC News, Washington.
Well, massive explosions are being reported north of Tel Aviv tonight as Iran retaliates against the growing number of Israeli strikes. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his Air Force has control of Tehran's skies and has not ruled out targeting Iran's supreme leader directly.
Live on air, a missile strikes Iranian state television. After escaping the blast, this injured reporter is worried about his colleagues. "I don't know how many were inside," he says. "I don't know how many have died or have been injured." Israel argues the TV centre is a mouthpiece for the regime, a claim quickly rejected by the Iranians.
This appalling attack constitutes a blatant war crime and a direct assault on press freedom.
The attack was one of many across Iran, with Israel warning people near military facilities to evacuate. Iranian authorities are urging the public not to panic, but it hasn't stopped them stockpiling.
People are truly afraid when they hear the sound of bombing. We just had a customer start crying and left the shop in a hurry.
On a visit to Tel Aviv Air Base, Benjamin Netanyahu declared Israel had achieved aerial superiority.
The Israeli Air Force controls the skies of Tehran. This is a change to the entire campaign. We are on the way to achieving our two goals: elimination of the nuclear threat and elimination of the missile threat.
Israel says it had more than 50 fighter jets over Tehran, attacking and destroying more than 120 surface-to-surface missile launches. But Tehran insists it still managed to launch around 100 missiles and is vowing further retaliation. More than 20 Israelis have so far been killed.
We heard a boom, and we understand that it's very close. And I was with my daughter. She's 5 years old. She started to cry and very panicked.
Militarily, Israel claims it has the upper hand, but it's still a long way from achieving its public goal of completely destroying Iran's nuclear program.
And Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran has more on the ground in Tel Aviv.
The warning sirens went off a couple of hours ago, sending millions of Israelis into shelters, and you can see why. There's some smoke just on the horizon over there where one missile has clearly come into land here north of Tel Aviv, and it's not only caused damage over there. We turn the camera around, you can see the debris which has been thrown across this area, including going right through the back window of this car over here. There is a heavy police presence, as there are at all of these sites, while the authorities try to figure out exactly what's happened and what sort of damage there is there. While that missile attack was coming through, or just after that happened, we learned from the Israel Defense Forces that it claims it has killed another senior member of the Iranian defense establishment, the wartime chief of staff, a man who'd only stepped up into the role in the last couple of days after many other commanders were killed. It goes to show that this fight, these exchanges of strikes between both Israel and Iran continue and show very little sign of easing up anytime soon.